When in Rome, do as the Romans do, goes a saying. But if China has its way, when in Kathmandu, do as the Chinese do. China is increasing its influence in the whole of South Asia, from the Maldives to Nepal. Just walk around the bazaars of Kathmandu and one can't miss noticing China's presence. Its omnipresence across the city. From signboards to Chinese tourists to businesses to hotels, go to shops and you will find many of them being owned by Chinese. Chinese currency changers are everywhere.
Hello friends, once again welcome to my video presentation, and this is Global Citizen once again, and I have come up with an improvised version of my previous video presentation that I had posted a week ago. I thought there are some improvement that needs to be made on the video. That's why I come up with the revised version of that video presentation on the topic Nepal soon to be a new colony for China. Yes, I mean it. Okay, you heard it right, and everybody would be wondering how can I say that, but based on the analysis of the event, domestic political and geopolitical events that have happened in Nepal in last 20 to 30 years prior to means not in last like a few decades, I believe I have come to a conclusion that Nepal is heading towards becoming a Chinese colony. Yes, based on my analysis of the events that have occurred in last decade or so, a little bit over 1 decade, I have come to a conclusion with a strong conviction that Nepal is heading to be a Chinese colony very soon. And I mean it. I'm just saying, mark my words, my friends. I'm saying it with a lot of convictions. You might realize it if Nepal is heading on the same path and Nepal's politics doesn't really change. It is going to be a Chinese colony soon. Now I'm gonna show you a map. Yes, my friends, a map which will show you the actual size of China, and you will be surprised, astonished that how big China has become now. Okay, this map goes back to just before the end of Second World War in 1945. Okay, and the eastern side of Asia continent is mostly visible in this map. You will see the red part is the actual boundary of China, and that was when it was unified under KMT, Nationalistic Party, in 1912. Okay, and that was the actual part of China. In the eastern side, northeastern side, you will see a blue colored region known as Manchuria, and I'm sure many would not really have heard about the name Manchuria. Yes, my friend, you have heard it right. Again, this was occupied by Japanese forces until the end of Second World War, and later on, when Japanese forces surrendered, it was taken control of by the USSR's forces, and USSR was the a confederation of republics known as Union of Soviet Socialistic Republics. And then because it was governed by the Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party was also established under the same kind of principles, with the same kind of almost similar kind of ideology. Of course, it was modified drastically later on by Mao Zedong. Okay, and because they were brotherly friends, then they handed over the Manchurian region to Chinese Communist Party, as the Chinese Communist Party was also present in Manchuria. Little bit elements of Chinese Communist Party, CCP, along with other KMT political party elements, they were present in Manchuria too. So they handed over to them, and that's how it started. It was just Chinese Communist Party along with the nationalistic KMT party, they started governing Manchuria. But once the Chinese Communist Party overthrew I beg your pardon, not overthrew the KMT government in China mainland, okay, with the help of People's Liberation Army, okay, they merged Manchuria into China. So this is how China became bigger. And other parts, southwest is Tibet, which is mostly known to people in the world. However, the this Tibet plateau was divided in two big provinces in the modern day China by the Chinese Communist Party. The one part, which is the east side of Tibet, is known as Qinghai, and on this west side of Tibet, that is known as autonomous province of Tibet. Okay, and if you see, go further up, you'll see southern Mongolia, that was annexed by China in 1949, and it was forcefully merged with China and as taken over by Chinese Communist Party, and the name was changed to Inner Mongolia, autonomous province of Inner Mongolia. Similarly, East Turkestan, if you see, there was no boundaries which was touching actual China's boundaries. So now, after taking over Inner Mongolia, they also invaded East Turkestan and captured that East Turkestan also in 1950. And that's how it has grown more than double of its size into modern day China, which I still say China is the occupying force of these regions. And on the south of red part, there is another part which is known as Yunnan, and currently its name is known as Autonomous Province of Yunnan. This is very surprising, but it clearly shows the imperialistic and expansionist mindset, how Chinese Communist Party nibbles away others' territories. It basically, whoever it views weaker, and it will start threatening, or then later on it will basically seize that territory as its own, as if it has always been part of China, which is completely false narrative that has been spread by the Chinese Communist Party. I'm going to talk about political history of modern day Nepal, as most of the people might already be knowing that there was an absolute monarchy in Nepal until November 1991, and before that in 1950, which many people would not be knowing, in 1950 there was an uprising against the then King Mahendra Shah that was actually led by the Communist Party in Nepal, along with other smaller factions of other kind of political parties. And it was King Brinder Shah in 1991 who paved the way for the multi-party democracy, multi-party governance system, and he was the one who was later on martyred, killed in a spree. So King Brinder Shah and his family. If you have a look at this picture, on the right hand side of King Brinder Shah is the Crown Prince Dipender Shah, and on the left hand side is his wife, late Queen Aishwarya Shah, and his daughter and another son. So this will give you kind of idea what kind of person King Brinder Shah would have been, what kind of person Crown Prince Dipender Shah would have been. Okay, so this is a little bit about the political history, but I want to add here there was an element of Communist Party that was surging all across Nepal, and that Communist Party, Communist Party faction was known as Communist Mashal, that came into existence after the bifurcation of the actual Communist Party in 1983. Since it follows the Maoist ideology, that's why it renamed itself as a Communist Party Maoist in Nepal. Okay, this party was responsible for running a bloody insurgency all across Nepal, and as everyone knows, Maoist ideology says power flows from the barrel of a gun. Okay, I want to add here another fact. Okay, and this fact was these communists were sponsored and funded by the Chinese establishment, of course covertly, not openly, because mostly these Communist Party Maoist faction, they were underground, they were not working overground. For that they had another faction of Communist Party, that is the kind of mask they put on their face and showing that they are different from Maoists, but they are actually two sides of same coin. And as everybody knows, there was a sad massacre that took place, very bloody and unfortunate massacre that took place in June 2001, where it is allegedly reported that Crown Prince Dipender Shah had killed 9 family members, immediate family member, including his father, his mother, his younger brother, his younger sister, and then shot himself dead too. It's surprising. I can't really swallow, I can't really digest that kind of news or piece of report at all. Anyhow, after that, I will show you a photo first. King Brinder Shah and his wife earlier, when they were younger, and later on, the family, along with his both prince sons and one daughter and wife. Soon after the massacre that took place in the royal family palace, where 10 people died, and Gyanendra, Prince Gyanendra, who was the younger brother of late King Brinder Shah, was nominated for being the king. People erupted on the street, and they were not really happy with that. And these are some of the
The king is dead. Long live the king.
The man who was adulated by millions when he was alive was cremated without a single fuss.
So friends, as I was talking about how this bloody massacre took place in the royal palace in Nepal, Kathmandu, Nepal, okay, and after that Prince Gyanendra Shah became the king. There is a surprising element in this episode of events that had happened at the time of that massacre, allegedly being committed by the Crown Prince Dipender Shah. Only 2 people who were the eyewitnesses, they were left alive. It was Crown Prince's cousin, Prince Parashah, and another person was Dr. Rajiv Shah, the son-in-law of another brother of King Brinder Shah. And they were the only 2 people. How was it possible these 2 people were there at the site of massacre and they were left alive? Isn't it surprising, a little bit shocking, and isn't it like a mind-boggling? To me, I'm really being serious, I can't really accept this. Okay, once Gyanendra Shah became king, he revoked the earlier order of abolishing absolute monarchy, and he restored absolute monarchy. And surprisingly, only his family was alive. And later on in 2008, when Communist parties came to power in 2008 election. After 2008 election, they abolished the monarchy system and they deposed Gyanendra Shah from his position. So you have to understand the sequence and look how communists took control of Nepal. This is what basically I'm trying to indicate here. And you know what happened? Why only Gyanendra Shah and his family were alive? I'm not saying it's good that people should have. If they were not participating in the massacre, okay, I don't mind. I'm happy that somebody, at least from that family or dynasty, is still alive. However, it raises question in my mind: why only these people? And I believe there was some sort of kind of like a script. They were given the role to play. Okay, and he was deposed from his position without him having any kind of idea that he will be deposed from the position of monarchy, from the position of king of Nepal. So this is something which is always mind-boggling to me. Okay, so friends, I want to talk about the forces. Who could be the forces behind the royal family massacre? And who were the people who benefited the most out of this massacre? If you analyze the sequence of the events, you will definitely point towards China, mainland Chinese, the Chinese Communist Party. And they were the one who are the biggest beneficiary of that. I know it's not direct, it's going to be indirect to have influence on another neighbor of the mainland China. I can say with strong conviction here that these are the people who have scripted who has written the script of massacre and everything, and how they would come to power. Because the Chinese Communist Party have a strategy. They do not play strategy which is only a short-term strategy. They always play a script which is a long-term strategy, and they are very patient to come to achieve their own objectives. And this is how they have started. They had already sowed the seeds of communism in Nepal a long time ago. Once they felt that it cannot succeed so quickly in Nepal to abolish the feudalism or imperialistic rule, or maybe the monarchy system in Nepal, that's how they conspired. They plotted a conspiracy to get rid of the monarchy. They had a massacre done, and in that massacre, entire ruling family was wiped out. And that's how they were able to install communist government in Nepal. You might say, how come they didn't come to power right after that? Yes, they didn't come, but they became stronger and stronger after monarchy, after the royal family massacre, after the King Brendra Shah and his family was killed in the massacre. Okay. And only two people were there? No. Was there nobody else in the palace working, no employee working around at that time? It is not possible. I'm sure there were other elements who were eyewitness to that massacre, but they were not significant, they were not powerful, they were weak, and they were intimidated or hushed up not to disclose any evidence. So nobody would have come out. And that's how the Communist Party in Nepal, and I believe Communist Party in Nepal is totally in the Chinese trap due to many reasons, and those reasons could be right from wealth, wine, and women to anything else. So many, So this is my conviction, strong conviction. Mark my word. I'm telling you, if the current political dispensation and does not really change, or is not going to change in Nepal, it is going to be very, what I meant to say is that Nepal is going to be a client state of China, the Chinese Communist Party, very, very soon. Pictures of that one. I'm going to show you a short clipping from another. So here is the person, this Crown Prince, this the file photo of Crown Prince Thipinder Shah. Can you believe that this person, who is highly educated, well-mannered, and very courteous, grounded person, could ever kill everybody in his family? Could kill his father, could kill his mother, could kill his younger brother, innocent younger sister? No way. Just because there was a difference in the choice of his bridegroom? I don't think so. And that is why I'm totally perplexed to hear that he was the perpetrator of the massacre. No way. I can't really swallow this false news. I know every inquiry, whatever inquiry was conducted into this massacre, could be botched up inquiry. I do not believe, I cannot accept the fact that he is the murderer. No way. So, in fact, in other words, I'm trying to say the biggest beneficiary of the documentary that was produced right after the massacre of royal family people, and it shows the cremation. This massacre were the communists in Nepal, and of course through these communists the biggest beneficiary happens to be the Chinese Communist Party. And this gentleman here on the screen is Prachanda, of course file photo is old photo of Prachanda, who became prime minister in 2008 after communist government took over as elected, politically elected or democratically elected party. Okay, his name is Pushpa Kamal Dahal. Okay, and he was the one who had been in constant contact with the Chinese Communist Party. He was the biggest representative of Chinese Communist Party in Nepal, and he was the chairman of the Maoist party, which ran insurgency, bloody insurgency all across Nepal. Look at these militia people he was the leader of, and these militia people were responsible for intimidating, coercing people, innocent people in the countryside all across the hinterland of Nepal. So in my view, I believe it was the China which was the major force behind the massacre, and of course other forces including the evangelical forces were also happy, because as long as King Brinder Shah or monarchy was there in the rule in Nepal, they would not have been in a position to abolish the religious conversion law in Nepal. Okay, and of course these Nepalese communist leaders were totally in the trap, Chinese trap, and they were easy to follow the directives coming from Chinese Communist Party. Okay, and as you already know, if you have a little bit understanding of geopolitics, you would know that there were some developments that have happened in Nepal in late 2019, where the current Prime Minister KP Oli was to step down as a Prime Minister, but he sought the interference or the help from the Chinese Communist Party, where the current Chinese ambassador to Nepal in Kathmandu convened a meeting of all the Nepalese communist leaders and persuaded them to continue to support KP Oli's government. And then they basically, the Prime Minister Oli continued to be the Prime Minister of Nepal, and that's where he's paying back these kind of gratitude to the Chinese Communist Party by being a kind of client state of the Chinese Communist Party. Prime Minister Oli with President Xi Jinping. I'm going to show you a video clip next. Friends, now I'm going to show you a short video. The first part of this video would show you how Chinese are destroying the nature, how Chinese traders and investors are destroying the nature in Fiji Island, and how they ignore all the laws of the land they do not really care about. And second part of this video clipping is taken from the documentary from France 3 channel that was telecast in 1963, and that documentary is about a part of this documentary is the documentary is about the Chinese forces invasion into Tibet and how they have annexed Tibet in 1950. Please stay with me, and I'm sure you like these short video clip.
Crystal clear waters of Malolo Island, Fiji. We're going to the site of Fiji's biggest resort development, a development that's caused serious environmental damage.
Last year we heard that the Chinese developers had sort of bought the land next to us and moved in. And
Australian Navran Fox and local Fijian Jonah Josiva and another surfing mate own the land alongside the Chinese development.
You know, when we rocked up, we weren't really ready. Jonah had filled us in a little bit, but along here, like we're here at high tide right now, but there was 2 or 3 excavators out here just digging up the reef. There was excavators in where our beach used to be with like hydraulic fluid going everywhere and just going hell for leather, all without permits, no foreshore permits, no nothing.
And tell me about the channel that they've dug out here.
We worked out it was about 5,000 square metres of reef that they've dug out, and they've stockpiled it over on their land, and then they've also, you know, built this makeshift sort of piece of land in front of what used to be our beach.
Everything was planned by Mao Zedong as early as 1949. Following the then recent victory of the Communist Revolution, Mao revived China's old imperial ambitions to impose its sovereignty on Tibet. He was not concerned by historical realities, or that the country had been governed for centuries by the Dalai Lamas. The first phase of the Maoist initiative was simple: to force the Tibetan authorities to admit that the Chinese forces marching upon their country were not an army of conquerors, but an army of liberation from Western imperialism.
When Chinese army entered 1950 in the Tibetan area under Dalai Lama's government's jurisdiction, the Chinese army already crushed around 7,000 to 8,000 Tibetan soldiers. Army, all crashed. So then the Chinese army can go up to Lhasa without any resistance. But then Chinese leadership, they stop the Chinese army on eastern part of autonomous system of Tibet, the Chamdo area, stop there. Then the discussion about agreement which is started. Although that agreement, according sort of expert, that also is an agreement signed under duress.
When the 17-point agreement was signed on May 17, 1951, Tibet lost Amdo, the Dalai Lama's native province, and Kham, which were both annexed by the Chinese. Reduced to its western portion, Tibet retained an autonomous government and its social and religious traditions. A minor concession for Mao, who'd obtained what he wanted. Tibet was declared liberated and not annexed to show that it had always been Chinese. From this point on, any criticism of China's policy in Tibet would be condemned as interference in the internal politics of the country. The first phase of Mao's plan was complete.
It was a very clear, untruthful statement that Tibet was always
a part of China.
So friends, as you have seen in the documentary, the first part, how Chinese do not really care about the laws of the land, and they are very rampant in destroying the nature, destroying the ecology of that area where they have bought land, and it's a kind of land grab going on. And the second part, how Chinese forces brutally invaded Tibet and then forced the Tibetan administration government to sign an agreement, and then they showed, pretended to the world that they have not annexed Tibet, but they have liberated Tibet from the feudal system, just like they have done in different way in Nepal. They wiped off entire monarchy. In 1950, they invaded Tibet and then forced them to sign an agreement, and then deceitfully started imprisoning the top leaders of Tibet government, and then they started destroying the cultural and historical monuments of Tibet, including ancient, very ancient, very valuable ancient Buddhist monasteries. And then due to all that duress and stress, Dalai Lama, 14th Dalai Lama, had to flee to India, and then Tibetans were forced to adopt to the Chinese traditions and culture, in relinquishing their own traditions and culture. Can you believe it? And that is how they started oppressing. And since serious human rights crimes were committed by the Chinese Communist Party, and then at the same time they started settling Han Chinese in the Tibet, and in a way to try to to change the demography of Tibet. And Tibetans were not permitted to follow their traditions and culture at all. This is how brutal, how cruel was the Chinese regime in Tibet. And Nepal, I believe Nepal is forgetting these woes at all, and it is heading in the same direction as Tibetan were not really willing, but here the political dispensation of Nepal, current political dispensation of Nepal, is heading towards the same route. Okay. Well friends, I'm going to reiterate here that please do not forget Tibetans woes, Tibetans history. Okay, learn from that, and try to avoid this course of political dispensation that's going to happen. Don't let Nepal to be Chinese colony. Okay, I'm gonna talk more about this in my second part. It's already a long video presentation, but in my second part I would give you more evidences, more what is happening around the world by basically scripted by the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, please tune in and watch my second part as well. If you like any part of this video presentation, please give me a thumbs up, and also please subscribe to my videos. I will try to make it more interactive as I get more motivation from you guys, from all friends all over. Okay, I will really attempt to make it more interactive, more interesting to people. I hope you would give me a thumbs up and subscribe.